Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Matthews Monthly Real Estate Market Minutes. What a mouthful. Try saying it 10 times fast. This week, because of some recent changes with our Fed chair having a conversation about the long-term plans for interest rates, the federal funds rate, etc. Because of that meeting, we're going to have today's video be on the subject of interest rates and what that means for the Florida Gulf Coast real estate market now and in the foreseeable future. And we're going to talk about the real estate bottleneck that may come as a result of interest rates declining. Before we go into that, though, a quick synopsis and breakdown of what transpired in 2020 to 2022 is probably required. Everybody remembers when interest rates went to effectively zero in 2022 or 2020, in essence, to combat the essentially stagnation of our entire economy due to the pandemic. At that point in time, at least in the Florida Gulf Coast real estate market, most property owners took their homes off the market because it was very difficult to show them. People felt concerned for their safety and health, as they should have been at the impetus or when this started, when the pandemic started, rather. So there wasn't a whole lot of inventory on the market at that point in time. In March, April, June, July, etc., there wasn't a lot of inventory. There was actually a very strong seller's market by the numbers, which a seller's market is anything under 5 months of inventory. 5 months and less is a seller's market when maintained for a certain period of time and prices go up. So that's the first thing we have to note about what happened in the housing market when interest rates declined in 2020. So then interest rates went to effectively zero and we had no inventory to sell. And that is what caused the cataclysmic and volatile appreciation and inflation of home values in our area. There just weren't enough homes to sell. So interest rates were zero, but there was nothing to buy. So home values went up on average 20% per year. That's average. Some areas saw 100% appreciation, but on average, the Florida Gulf Coast saw appreciation at 20% per year for 2 years in a row. In April of 2022, that is when the Fed started combating inflation, and they raised interest rates. And when they did, it was like a faucet was shut off, because overnight, a buyer's ability to buy, not only had home values gone up, but over 40% for 2 years, 40% in 2 years on average. Not only had a buyer's ability to buy up to that point diminished because values went up, rates went from 2 and 3% to 5% overnight. Their ability to purchase was cut in half instantly. And at that point in time, inventory had started to climb again because more and more and more homeowners were trying to take advantage of this this unprecedented market. Very tumultuous times. So you had homeowners, you had a lot of greed. People were aspirationally pricing. In other words, they were pricing it at any old price just to see if they could get it. So you're seeing inventory stack, okay? And then interest rates went up. Buyers' ability to buy was cut in half. And then that's what started the housing market correction that we're experiencing now, where ubiquitously in the 8 counties that we service, values are down in some capacity, some more than others, but all property values are down from April 2022. And all markets peaked a little bit differently. Some peaked in 22, some peaked in 23, but all are declining now. We'll wrap this up really quickly. So what does that mean for us if rates go down now? Now that we know what happened then, we know rates went to zero, there were no homes on the market because of the pandemic. So when there's no groceries on the shelf, you buy whatever's there. That's what happened from 2020 to 2022. The difference now, if rates go down, and please rewatch this if you need to, for it to really cement in. Right now, we have an extremely strong buyer's market. We have far too many homes on the market. In some areas, we have over a year worth of homes. And in some categories like condos, we have years of inventory on the market, and values have fallen by over 40% in some demographics and some segments. So we have a buyer's market right now, which we didn't have in April 20 or in March of 2020. There was nothing on the market, generalizing. They all took it off. Now we have too many, far too many. And rates aren't going to go to zero like they did then overnight. They're going to titrate them down slowly to find the, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a sweet spot. The Goldilocks, they're going to try to find the Goldilocks zone. So right now, if interest rates were to go down, keep in mind, there's a lot of homeowners that are all singing the same tune, that if interest rates go down, we're going to put our home on the market because the market's going to get better. But the problem with that thinking is we already have too much inventory. So this is where the bottleneck comes in. You're going to have all of the inventory we already have on the market that's going to meet all of the inventory from the homeowners that were sitting on the sidelines for rates to go down. And they're going to collide at 100 miles an hour, and they're going to make a tornado of the potential value loss for the short term. Will it get better in the long term? It could, and it likely will, because a broken clock is right twice a day. Eventually, it will fix itself. But in the short term, you're going to see what is already a strong buyer's market, and buyer demand will increase. Let me add that. Buyer demand will increase, but not enough to offset what we already are experiencing, which is a buyer's market. There might be enough demand increase to absorb the inventory we already have, but then all of the sellers have been waiting for a couple years now for the market to get better and for rates to go down. When they flood into the market, and what's the likelihood they're going to price correctly? Because interest rates are down. Aren't values going to go up? No, not right away. They're still going down. So you're going to have double the inventory. And when I say double, it could be triple or quadruple. But I just mean you're going to have two piles of inventory hit each other. The ones coming on and the ones that are already on, they're all going to have to sell off. And a buyer's market is going to be that much more exacerbated for the short term. Eventually, with time, it will sell off and subside, just like it did between 2004 and 2009. But what does it look like for home values right out of the gate when rates go down? They're not going to be like a 5-year-old on a trampoline. They're not going to spring straight up. It's going to be like a 55-year-old on a trampoline. You hit the trampoline and you herniate a disc in your back and blow your knees out, and it's going to take a while for you to get back up. So hopefully that makes sense. It's not doom and gloom. It's just setting the expectation that we have a buyer's market now. When rates go down, they're not going to go down astronomically. They're going to titrate them down systematically, slowly, to ensure we don't end up like we did last time. And it's going to create a bottleneck of inventory, just like I-75 in the afternoon traffic, because it's all congested down to one lane because everybody wants to look at the wreck on the side of the road. That's what the real estate market will likely be like for 6 to 12 months, or it could even be more when rates go down, because you're going to have a lot of optimistic sellers that are trying to take advantage of the rates being decreased, but the market's not going to be supportive because it's much different than the market we experienced in 2020 when there was no inventory. We're going to have 10 million cans of green beans on the shelf, and they're all going to be on sale. So it's actually going to be counterproductive for sellers to put their homes on the market at that time. The best thing to do would be to wait it out, let the supply sell off, and then slowly titrate inventory or release inventory onto the market so that it's a nice, stable, healthy market. So anyhow, call me with your questions. Forgive me for getting a little verbose on here. I try to truncate these as much as possible, but I'm passionate about this stuff, if you can't tell. And I want to ensure that we're not being misled or deluded into thinking that everything's going to get better tomorrow. It is going to get better. Absolutely. It always does. After the rain showers and the thunderstorms, there's always sun and rainbows. And it's beautiful. And that's going to happen. It just might not happen right away and like you'd hope, based off of what we know right now. Because the two things that we are comparing it to two different things. We're comparing apples to kiwis, frankly. So hopefully this makes sense. You guys have an amazing rest of your day. And we'll see you in the next edition of Matthew's Monthly Market Real Estate Minutes. See ya.